Nothing in this podcast or on our website should be construed as medical advice. Consult your healthcare provider for your individual nutritional and medical needs. The information presented is based on our research and is strictly that of the author and not necessarily those of any professional group or other individual.
Hi, I'm Sue Becker from Bread Beckers. Welcome to Sue's Healthy Minutes. I'm so excited you've joined me today, and I hope this episode encourages you and allows you to find the answers you have been praying for the health of you and your family. Today is going to be a slightly different presentation. It's entitled, Getting Started on the Real Bread Journey. Over the past few weeks, I've had the opportunity to share the message of healthy eating and real bread on several different platforms. The response has been amazing, perhaps even overwhelming, but nonetheless exciting. We've had so many questions about how to get started making real bread. We thought it would be a good idea to include some information about getting started in this week's podcast. We realize that many of you listening are veteran bread makers and may not need this information at all, or perhaps it will inspire you to expand your grain milling to other grains and recipes. But for those who are new to this world, I welcome you. I look forward to helping you on your life-changing real bread journey. Years ago, each time I would share the nutritional information about real bread and freshly milled whole grains, we always got asked the same question: what do I need to get started? So we put together a basic list of getting started items that we hope will be helpful to you. These, of course, are just suggestions, but can serve as a starting point to help you determine what best suits you and your family's needs. You can find all of these items in our store or online at breadbeckers.com. We also explain each of these ingredients in much more detail in our well-known Red Recipe Collection cookbook, or in my book, The Essential Homegrown Flour Book, or even as a video on our Bread Beckers YouTube channel. And now, here today in this episode of Sue's Healthy Minutes. First and foremost, you're going to need a grain mill or some way of turning these amazing grains into flour for baking. I love machines that are multifunctional, but for flour milling, I prefer a dedicated grain mill. There seems to be much interest these days in mills with stone milling heads, but I actually prefer ones with stainless steel milling heads. They are cleaner and faster to use. We sell two mills at Bread Beckers with what is known as micronizing stainless steel milling heads, the Wonder Mill and the Nutra Mill. Both do a great job of making flour, but our preference is the Wonder Mill, mostly for design and ease of use. And for emergency backup, we do have the non-electric Wonder Junior Deluxe hand mill. Now let's look at what type of wheat you will need. There are two basic types of wheat: hard wheat and soft wheat. Hard wheat has a higher protein content than soft wheat and is preferred for making yeast breads. Soft wheat, on the other hand, is higher in moisture and lower in protein than hard wheat, so is perfect for converting all of your white flour, cake, and cookie recipes to freshly milled soft wheat flour. We carry two varieties of hard wheat: hard red and hard white. There are some slight nutritional differences, but mostly the difference is in flavor. Hard red wheat has a beautiful color and a rich, nutty flavor. It seems to have a slightly higher fiber content than white wheat. White wheat is more bland in flavor than red wheat, but it should not be confused with white flour. White wheat is a particular variety of wheat. Think white corn, yellow corn. 2 different varieties, 2 different flavors. I personally love the flavor of hard red wheat, as do most people that I meet. And so I do most of my bread baking with hard red wheat. I do enjoy the milder flavor of hard white wheat, particularly for things like pizza dough and our delicious garlic rolls. Hard white wheat is in limited supply this year due to some crop failure, but under normal circumstances, I enjoy having both hard red and hard white wheat on hand. Now, I'm a Southern girl, so I often make biscuits and occasionally cakes and cookies, so I do like having a bucket of soft white wheat on hand as well. At Bread Becker's, all of our wheat and other grains and beans are packaged with carbon dioxide in food-grade 6-gallon buckets to protect from moisture, bug infestation, and rodents, so they are perfect for long-term storage. No further precautions are needed for storage. The 6-gallon buckets are definitely the most economical way to purchase your wheat and other grains and beans. Now, it may seem like an awful lot of wheat to get started, especially for small households, but just remember it is storable and it's the cheapest way to purchase it, and you will then always have it on hand when bread and other food just might not be available. We offer all of our grains and beans in 1-gallon pails or 2-pound bags as well. These are first packaged with carbon dioxide into the 6-gallon buckets before packaging down to these smaller sizes. So no further precautions for storage is needed, other than the 2-pound bag should be stored in some type of food storage container. We have certified organic wheat and other grains and beans, as well as non-organic varieties. Now, gamma lids are a must for replacing that normal bucket lid on the 6-gallon bucket of grain that you will be using. This gives you a screw-on lid that makes going in and out of your bucket of grain so easy, and it ensures that that bucket gets closed properly each time you use out of it. You only need a gamma lid for the buckets you are using. You do not need one for every bucket in your storage. When you use up all of that wheat or grain from your bucket that has the gamma lid on it, just pour your new bucket of wheat or grain into your bucket with the gamma lid. Gamma lids are available in 6 different colors. I try to color coordinate my most frequently used grains with a corresponding color of lid. For example, I have a red gamma lid on my bucket of hard red wheat. Now, the Wonder Mill will grind any kind of dry grain or bean into flour, and there is nothing like freshly milled flour for all of your baking needs. We sell most every kind of grain or bean you might want at Bread Becker's. I'm Southern, so I love corn for making my cornbread and grits. Dent corn or popcorn can both be milled in the Wonder Mill for corn flour, and a blender can be used to quickly coarse grind corn for grits. You haven't tasted cornbread, a corn muffin, or grits until you make it with freshly milled corn. Kamut is an ancient grain that is great for pasta or simply boiled and eaten whole. Kamut can also be combined with hard red or hard white wheat for a delicious yeast bread. We especially love to combine 2 parts red wheat with 1 part kamut. It's delicious. Spelt is another favorite ancient grain. I love its sweet, nutty flavor for yeast breads as well as for muffins or pancakes. Ezekiel mix is probably one of our most popular, and for that matter, my favorite mixture of grains and beans taken straight from the Bible in Ezekiel chapter 4, verse 9. I have a recipe for Ezekiel bread in both our red recipe collection and my book, the Essential Homegrown Flour Book. We offer all the grains and beans called for in one recipe, pre-mixed for you in a 1-quart bag. We also sell the equivalent of 3 recipes of the Ezekiel mixture in a 1-gallon pail that makes it so easy to substitute this Ezekiel flour in other baking applications, such as muffins, pancakes, cookies, and one of our favorites, brownies. Simply mill what you need into flour for the recipe you are making. Now let's talk about sweeteners. For most of my baking, I prefer honey as a sweetener. It is the only truly unprocessed sweetener. All of our honeys at Bread Becker's are raw and unpasteurized. This is important even when using honey for baking. We have several varieties, but the most economical for baking is what we call bakery honey. It's a blend of different honeys, allowing the cost to be a good bit less than most other popular varieties of honey. We sell it by the gallon, which again may seem like a lot of honey, but you will use it up faster than you think once you start regularly making all of your own real bread. We do sell 1 and 2 pound containers of some of the varieties of honey, but again, the 1-gallon jug will be the most economical for baking. In cakes and cookies, I often prefer sweeteners known as evaporated cane juice. They are much less processed than regular white sugar or brown sugar. They are easy to substitute 1 for 1 in recipes such as cakes and cookies that typically call for a fair amount of sugar. I substitute 1 for 1 sucanat for brown sugar and 1 for 1 honey granules for white sugar. They are less sweet than the commercially refined sugar, and they lend a mild flavor that we actually prefer. I use extra virgin olive oil for most of my baking. It is certainly biblical, but of course you can use whatever oil you prefer. You do need to know, however, that not all olive oil is created equally, nor is it always what the label says it is. It is an industry that lacks integrity. We sell our extra virgin olive oil in 3-liter and 5-liter cans that we import from Greece. The oil comes from reputable and small independent farms. The oil is regularly tested and is some of the best quality extra virgin olive oil, especially for the price. A general rule of thumb when shopping for olive oil is to make sure it's bottled in the country of origin. For yeast breads, our InstaFirm instant yeast is sold in a 1-pound vacuum-sealed package. It is much more reliable and economical than the small individual packages of yeast sold in most stores. It can be added along with the flour in any bread recipe, whether you are kneading by hand or using a bread machine or a mixer. Once opened, the yeast should be stored in the refrigerator or the freezer and should remain active for about a year. But if you start making all of your own bread, you will probably use it up well before the year's end. Now, salt makes any food taste better. Unfortunately, like most nutritious whole foods in the food industry, it is usually refined by heat treating and stripping the natural minerals out to sell to other industries. So we highly recommend unrefined salt, and we have chosen the Redmond Real Salt brand. Lecithin is another ingredient you'll find in some of my bread recipes. It's a natural emulsifier, and it will give your yeast breads a softer texture. You can certainly make great bread without it, so it's definitely an optional ingredient. Most lecithin sold commercially comes from soybeans, which is often genetically modified. So we have chosen a sunflower seed lecithin. Unfortunately, it is currently unavailable as it is sourced from Ukraine. I hope this information is helpful even to you veteran bread bakers and hopefully has inspired you to broaden your bread baking horizons. Remember, we explain each of these ingredients in much more detail in our Red Recipe Collection cookbook and in the Essential Homeground Flour book, or as a video on our Bread Becker's YouTube channel. You can follow the YouTube links in the podcast description to watch and to get a better understanding of the ingredients and their application needed for each type of bread. Also remember that we here at Bread Becker's are here to come alongside of you to help you in this health journey. We also have lots of classes and demonstrations that you can watch on our Bread Becker's YouTube channel. My grain mill is the best investment in my health and the health of my family that I have ever made. And I am just as excited today about real bread than when I started 31 years ago. Why? Because it's real and it's delicious and nutritious. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Thank you for listening today. And until next time, this is Sue Becker from Bread Becker's with Sue's Healthy Minutes.
Sue's Healthy Minutes podcast has been a presentation by the Bread Becker's Incorporated located in Woodstock, Georgia. For more information, store hours, and learning opportunities, visit breadbeckers.com and follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Make sure to subscribe to this podcast and never miss an episode. Share this with 2 friends who would benefit from this information, and be sure to join us again next week for more of Sue's Healthy Minutes.